Back with another episode of NA Now, joined here today with Bryan Erikson, head coach of the Northeast Generals. Bryan, thanks for taking some time to sit down and do this with us here.
Thanks, Brandon. It's always a pleasure.
Let's dive right into last season. Didn't go maybe the way you guys wanted to, just fell short of the playoffs. But tell us how you felt about last season overall.
Last season was a tough year. We were a little top heavy. We had David Andrechuk and Paul Minahan and Jake LaRusso. We had three guys, in the top 10 in scoring, which is great. We just didn't really have the depth. And, I don't think I did a great job last year creating, a winning culture. We did a really good job against Maryland in the regular season. Like we won our season series really well, and then we got swept by them in the playoffs. And, we tried to make some adjustments on the fly, and we got blown out in game one. We had a really tough overtime loss in game two, and then we battled them hard in game three. And, we try not to take too much pride in losses, but, we were happy that, you lose 9-2 in game one, and you go back to your goalie and he puts up 64 saves. And, there's a certain amount of pride. So, we lost some big guns, but we also gained some really valuable experience with some of our depth players that are now going to turn into those big guns. So we're pretty excited. We turned the page on last year. It was a challenging year, both on the ice and off the ice. But great kids, and we did what we were supposed to do. We got a lot of kids committed to college. We got a lot of kids moved to the next level. Exactly what we were supposed to do, and we just wish we had a little bit better results in the standings.
Right, definitely. Obviously, the season ends, you guys get the postseason out of your mind with the playoffs. Keep moving through with the draft and all that stuff. Tender process, which is such a great thing, an easy thing for you guys having so much help in house. But let's talk about the East Division real quick, as it's yet expanding again. 9 teams now. What can you say about this expansion in the East with the growth as you guys have seen over the years, and just kind of expand on that a little bit?
I mean, I love it. Listen, I was welcomed in as the 5th member, and that was Johnstown, New Jersey, or whatever the Rebels were at the time, and then we had Wilkes-Barre, and it was awesome. And so we've gone from 5 to 7 to 9, and I think Cam Robichaux up in New Hampshire is going to do a phenomenal job. He's a great guy. I know him from my time in the NA3 and then his time on the NA bench as an assistant up there in Maine. Francois is going to do a great job with Rochester. I mean, both first-class organizations, they got great ownership, great coaches. We're really excited. I mean, our footprint, when we came in as the only team in the East, kind of on an island, this is what we dreamt about, and I think, the dream was, shared between Mark Frankenfeld, myself, and my ownership group. And, we wanted this to become the footprint, and whether we get to 10 or we settle back to 8 at some point, I don't know what the future holds, but the East is in a really good spot. I mean, you've seen over the last couple of years how competitive the East has been. It's no longer kind of a rung behind. It's right there. We have probably 5 teams that are capable of winning the Robertson Cup this year, and I'm really excited to be part of that. Hopefully, part of that 5.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of mentioned this previous to this question I just asked you, but like I said, kind of getting last season out of your guys' mind with the postseason ending a little bit short in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. But you come into the draft, you come in with these tenders and all this stuff. And what were you keying in on to fill some holes with both tender process and the draft over the summer?
Size. So, our number one thing is, the East is a little more open, a little bit more skilled, a little bit, faster. But the one thing we didn't have, and where we really got exposed by Maryland, was, they just have like men, like big, heavy guys that can also skate. And so, we added a kid that's 6'7", we added a kid that's 6'6", we added a kid that's 6'3", we added a kid that's 6'4", but kids that, also can play hockey, that can stay to our identity. Our identity has always been playing a system and a style that gets kids ready to maximize their college experience. Maybe we could cheat out a few wins here and there if we wanted to really open the game up. But, we really feel as a group here, as Matt Divil, my GM, and my assistant coaches, Aaron Murray and Frank O'Connor, that, playing the guys in a system that is more structurally sound towards what they're going to have to do at the next level sets them up for success. And, we're trying to complement that by, winning games. And, I think adding size to the tender process, adding size to the draft process, led us to kick off today at practice, and we saw a lot more physicality. We saw a lot more wall battle wins, and it's just really fun and exciting that every year you start fresh, even though you get some very familiar faces in your locker room. It's just a new year. You guys come back as different men, and that's part of the best part about being in this league.
Yeah. You just mentioned there some returners to this upcoming year. Who are some of those guys if you want to share with us?
Yeah, so our captains are, Matt DeSpirit, kid that's been with us for 3 years, Nick Recupero, a kid that played in the NA3 um, for Rochester, then for us last year, and then got called up, and he's now a captain. Then Sixton Generso committed to LIU, one of our captains. Those are three guys that we're going to rely on. Nick and Matt are both defensemen, and they'll be paired together as our top pair, and Sixton will be relied on to, put up some points. And, for us, it's more about generating offense than necessarily putting a number on it, but we have Jacob Wilson, Frank Dancona, Ryan Remick from committed to Maine. We just have a good amount. We have 60 that played in the league last year. We have about 9 forwards that played in the league last year. So Tyler Ram, kid that's on his 5th year with us and as a general, kid that we really expect. Last year he had to play left wing, right wing, center, 13th forward, sixth, top 6, and this year we really expect him to be in that top 6 center spot. And he's a kid that, it's why we do it. It's the ladder development. He played literally 16 NAP, 18 NAP, NA3, and now NA last year and NA again this year. So we're pretty excited about our returners, but we're also excited about our new guys. We think we have a pretty good mix, a half and half new, half old. And, we're still a veteran team with a lot of youth as well. So we're trying to balance that every year.
Yeah. Brian, obviously over the last 6 seasons, there's been 6 different representatives from the East Division at the Robertson Cup. What's it going to take for you guys to make that trend to continue to go and advance now into the Final Four in Minnesota?
Yeah, I think what we had last year was we had some really good individual players, but I don't know if we had quite the team, like the not that they didn't get along, not that they didn't like each other. I mean, it was a great group of kids. They just didn't mesh, and we couldn't really find our identity. And this year we kind of decided to go after a group of kids that have an identity. I don't know if we have that 40 goal scorer like we did in Jake LaRusso or that 70-point scorer that we had in Paul Minahan and David Andrzejczyk. We're going to need to do it by being gritty. And so we got a lot of guys that aren't afraid to take it to the dirty areas, a lot of guys that are going to do their work in front of the net. We're probably going to have to spread out our scoring. If we have 8 15 goal scorers, I think we're in the Robertson Cup. And I think that, it's a big ask, but I also think the depth of our lineup is going to be such that we're going to put kids in position to score a lot of goals, kids that maybe haven't had a ton of success or had a ton of success in midgets, and then it didn't translate as quickly as they had hoped. And now in year 2, that's always where the big leap is. And, we're excited. Andrew Deladon, a kid that, he had 0 points in year 1 in the North American League. Last year he had 35 for us. And this year we expect him to have, 50. That's what the development is about within the North American Hockey League. And we're looking forward to making the Robertson Cup. But to be honest, we had day 1 today. I'm looking forward to day 2, and that's where my focus is right now.
Right. And then a preseason game on Wednesday too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to travel up to Maine, and, we'll get everybody ice time, and, we're going to do it a little differently. I was talking to you beforehand. We have 4 exhibition games in a short amount of time, and we're going to let kids either succeed or fail on the ice as opposed to just during practice. Give them an opportunity to fail and succeed in a game, and see how they kind of shape up and learn from their mistakes and continue to improve upon their successes. And it's different. We only bring 26 guys to main camp or to training camp. We don't bring this crazy big roster. We try to identify kids that have a legitimate shot to play in the North American Hockey League. And it doesn't mean we're always right, but bringing a shorter roster allows us to mesh a little bit quicker. We have some really fun stuff planned for the week for team building, in addition to scrimmaging on Wednesday against Nick Skurlik's Maine Nordiques.
Right on. Very cool. Very cool. You kind of mentioned this, but you guys are just fantastic. One of the best in the leagues at promoting players to the NCAA, promoting within from the NA3HL and NAPHL teams to the NAHL. But talk about how proud you are of your organization's ability to do such things like that.
We had an owners meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the one thing we talked about was, hey, listen, we can bring in the best hockey players in the world and try to win the Robertson Cup every year, or we can continue the path that we're doing, which is giving kids opportunities that maybe in other markets wouldn't get that opportunity. You see stuff like, Tyler Ram, I just mentioned him. We got Nolan Zotter, kids that played midgets, played NA3, played NA. We got Brendan Walesky, who we tendered this year. We have so many kids in our organization that have played not necessarily just for our NA3 team, but for other NA3 teams. We take a lot of pride in the League of Opportunity. We take a lot of pride in that. It's kind of rhetoric and it's a hashtag, and I get that. But right. I think if you do it the right way, the one thing that is you get a kid in your locker room that, whatever his skill level is, what type of kid he is, that he buys in about the Generals way of doing things. He's part of the Gens family, and he'll do anything he can to stay there. And for us, we use 6 kids from our NA3 team got games in the NA last year. When we have an injury or something, we're looking internally before we look externally. Is there a better option externally? I don't know. At the end of the day, that's not the way we do it. We reward kids for doing things the right way, for playing the best type of hockey. And, we're never going to stop doing that, because at the end of the day, our guys have a lot of success in college. We're not just proud of our commitments. My job isn't to just get a kid committed to college. My job is to get him to be a really good college hockey player. And I feel like we do that as good as anybody in the league. And, we put our record up with commitments and success and points and All-Americans and guys that are playing pro hockey now up against anybody. And that's the goal every year, is to promote as many kids as possible. We just talked about Eric Projan, my associate head coach and coach that's been with me for 4 years. He got a job as a head coach and a GM in another league. And that's what we're about. Shane Snow, my equipment manager, got a job on the East Coast Hockey League. It doesn't matter whether it's a kid or whether it's a coach or an equipment manager or an athletic trainer. Our job is to promote people up. And I think we do a fantastic job, and our ownership gives us the resources to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. One more for you, Brian. The NHL Showcase right around the corner, like you just spoke on, moving players to that next level. This is a huge starting point for that opportunity for a lot of these guys. But talk about that spectacle, the greatest show on ice, we call it, just how awesome an event it is, not only for the players, but for the coaches as well.
I mean, it's one of my favorite times, right? You come in and even today, starting training camp, kids are like, that's the hardest practice I've ever had. And I'm like, it was like a 2. And you multiply that by 1,000, and you get to those 4 games in 4 days out in Minnesota, where everybody's nervous because there's a lot of eyes on them. It's a phenomenal experience for myself, to reignite relationships with colleges and maybe develop some new ones. There's a lot of switches at the college level. But the one thing that it does such an incredible job of is really helps your team bond. It's early in the season. Maybe you're not playing your best hockey, but I know last year, 3 of the teams we lost to, because we went 0-4, 3 of the teams we lost to ended up making it to the Robertson Cup, and Maryland made it as well. So we had the one distinction of losing to all 4 teams in the Robertson Cup finals. We were very excited about that distinction, but it's great to get to play other teams. It's phenomenal part of, the league does a great job. We're just in Nashville as head coaches meeting. You get to make friends with these guys, and now you get to actually coach against them. You kind of get sick of your guys in your division. Not in a negative way, just in you see them enough, and they're great guys, but it's awesome to get to coach against Lane Sedevy and other guys that are in this league that have been doing it, a tremendous amount of success. And as coaches, if we're not looking to get better and looking at what we can learn from some guys that are also having success, then we're doing it wrong. So I look at it as an opportunity to watch guys, watch other teams, watch Phil Fox in New Mexico, how he runs his power play, how he runs his forecheck, how he runs his PK, and try to pick some stuff up. Not emulate necessarily, but that's something that the showcase offers coaches as a player. It just offers an opportunity to be seen by every NHL team, every Division I team, every Division III team, and it really starts relationships. Sometimes it might not pay off for 3 years, right? But at the end of the day, your interaction with a coach, whether it's body language in front of them playing or look in the mind, shaking their hand, when you shake their hand after a game. It goes a long way to kind of set the tone for how you're going to build relationships with schools. And, the same thing is a kid, 100% Division I kid, doesn't have a deal yet. 10 Division III schools out, in front, out in the lobby waiting for him. Talk to those schools, look them in the eye, say, thank you so much for being appreciative. Right. And I can't tell you how many guys have ended up, that coach has ended up at a Division I school that they want. And they remember that interaction. So you just try to tell everybody, like, nobody's going to get their dream school offer on day one of the showcase, but you can certainly crush that dream if you act, in a way that isn't beneficial to yourself and to your career. And so we're just really excited to get going. I mean, we September 8th, we grew up in Maine, and then September 14th, we're in Minnesota, and I can't wait to see the league. I mean, you, Benny, Shannon, Mark, everybody, they do such an unbelievable job at helping promote our players that, I love being around the guys and girls in the league office. I mean, it's the best league in the world for a reason. And it's because of the people that make it up, and that goes to the coaching staff and to the league office. And we're just really excited to be part of it.
Thank you. It means a lot, and always a pleasure talking to you. And thank you again for doing this. We will see you coming up in Minnesota, Brian.
Thanks, Brandon. Take care, bud.